Bring it on in. Football is king. Hello, everybody. Yes, Sean Brace filling in for Ryan Beefcoil here on this special edition of Football is King. Super excited to join Nick Mcclay. Of course, this is his show with Beef. They record weekly Tuesday nights. I have it for your consumption on Wednesday on The Gambler. And as always, if you miss anything at foxphogambler.com. Nick Mcclay, how we doing tonight, sir?
Good, good, man. I can't wait. Can't wait to get into it. Season just slowly approaching. Before we know it, we were just talking about it. We'll have that Aaron Lingus game, Iowa State, Kansas State, and I just can't wait for some football to sit down. We talked about it last week, just to sit down, do nothing on the weekends, just drink, watch some football, hang with the boys. So I can't wait till that can actually come to life.
Music to our ears, Mcclay. Music
Beautiful,
to our
beautiful.
ears, man. All right, so I'm going to pepper you with everything. We're going NFL, we're going college because it's the name of the show. Football is king.
Yep.
And I'm super excited to talk to you about college football because I'm starting to get the juices going. And of course, as we were looking at some of the bigger games that are going on, I know last week you guys previewed. Did you guys do the SEC last week or the week before?
SEC was last week. Yep.
Correct. It was a great listen talking about all the big games. I caught one today that is a big storyline that's happening due to the fact that the transfer class for this team out of the Big 12 has delivered. A big old oil tycoon down there in Texas Tech, Red Raider Nation, has dumped a lot of money into the NIL and has been able to, well, Texas Tech as a school, of course, that helped Texas Tech as a school remain really active in this year's transfer portal. 21 total commits. Let's see here, 13 four-star recruits. They go into ranking them by total points. We'll leave that off the board, but it's second according to 24/7 Sports, CBS Sports, 2025 transfer class rankings. LSU is in front of them, but Texas Tech is an interesting name there because is in your mind that conference wide open? Are you aware of what's taking place down there in Lubbock? Is it real? Everything that you can give us on that topic there,
Yeah, I
please.
mean, the Big 12 is completely wide open. There's, I think, three teams that are set with their win total at 8.5. Texas Tech being one of those teams, Arizona State and Kansas State as the other ones. But if I were to lean one way on those three teams to go over, I think I'd lean Arizona State just based off who they're bringing back Sam Levitt, bringing back Jordan Tyson, probably the best quarterback wide receiver duo in the Big 12. And I think they bring back like 15, 16 starters from that team. So that's a team that won the Big 12. I think continuing to roll that. I like that in Arizona State. But like you said with Texas Tech, they're putting the money in, man. They're doing what they have to do to get the guys in their building. But the last few seasons, like I feel like they've had the talent, but they've just not produced. They last season they were 6-1 in one score games, but that could easily just flip on a dime like that. So you go in the opposite direction, you're looking at a completely opposite record of what they had. They're going to have a lot of new faces in that system, but like you said, there's a couple 4 stars in there. They're going to have a talent. Just if they can get that chemistry, get that adjustment, I think 8.5 is very doable for this Texas Tech team.
Yeah, they were flashing their schedule up on that. We're not going to go too deep on that, but in your opinion, now I do have the 2024 transfer class rankings, so we can compare and contrast. But in this day and age, is this a benefit if you can pull more transfers, or maybe does it work against them for a team that has to replace a ton or has constant, the revolving door? You're not able to build that culture, the chemistry, whatever you can apply to that.
Yeah,
But
it'll be tough.
would
It'll be tough to gain that chemistry, but I mean, at the end of the day, if you can bring in that talent, I mean, I think in the end of the day, you have the talent, you can make the adjustment. If you want to be a professional, you want to make that next step, you want to buy in. If you're that 4-star recruit, maybe you do have to take a step back for some other guys. So if you really want to buy into a system, I think the transfer portal might be, in your favor. But at the same time, like you just said, it's going to be a revolving door. There's going to be money thrown out at tons of different players, tons of different people, coaches. And even I think me and Coyle talked about it the other day. In today's game of college football, there's going to be a lot more package transfers, quarterbacks and offensive coordinators going, from the Mountain West to an SEC school, from, the Sun Belt to like a Big Ten school. There's going to be package deals that we're not used to seeing. So there's going to be teams that, have some type of chemistry, even though they're filled with transfers.
Yeah, it's a good point. What do you mean? What do you make of the fact that we only have 2 5-star recruits and the rest 4-stars out of the whole transfer class? Only 2 5-stars have transferred. But the 4-stars, I mean, you got 12, 13, 9, 10, 7. Is it the fact that these 5-stars are just taken care of, paid well, and
Yeah, I
they
think
don't
that's
need to
what it
even
is.
leave?
You're a 5-star. I think you go into, that loyalty part of, the situation. If they, they're there giving you the money, and you're producing, why leave? But like you said, with those 4-stars, I mean, maybe they're not getting the money. Maybe they want to reach that 5-star type of, NIL money. So that's why they're kind of dishing out, going to not maybe lesser schools, but just more schools where they have more of, an option and a chance to, get their name out there.
Last year, Ole Miss led the way with 26 commits, 1 5-star, 7 4-stars. Once again, 26 in the transfer portal. Oregon was 14. Alabama was 15. A&M was 28. Florida 16. Texas 12. So it worked out well for Oregon. And Alabama went through that with the coaching change. So that was a whole different world. Ole Miss, they were aggressive down there. Came up short of I'm sure a lot of their goals, but still a good season. What are your thoughts on Ole Miss this year? What's Lane dealing with down there?
I really like their quarterback, Austin Simmons. He's one of the more intriguing guys that, we've kind of covered. Backing up Jackson Dart the last couple of years in a system where, he wasn't really ever going to play, but he's really mature for being, I think he's only 20 years old. I think I saw a report that he graduated high school like 2 years early, and he's set to graduate Ole Miss really soon. Which is crazy. I hope I didn't get, God on that tweet, but 6'4", 215.
He's Doogie Howser, even though you have no idea who the hell Doogie Howser is, but that's all right.
I can't believe you just said Doogie Howser because we always say that. That's crazy. Beav
How do you even know who Doogie Howser is?
I gotta clip that and send that to Beav.
How do you even know who Doogie Howser is?
We say it all the time. Oh, and that Maniac Pat, always brings him up. Oh, I can't believe it. I'm gonna clip that. Send it.
You never know with them Hector boys, man. You never know.
But speaking on this Ole Miss quarterback, I mean, he originally was committed to Florida, then he switched over to Ole Miss, and he played baseball too. He was a relief pitcher for the Rebels. I think last year, 2023 he was. So nothing to do with football, but that just shows the athlete, the willingness to be a dual sport athlete. But with Lane Kiffin, I think he's been raving about this Austin Simmons guy. But if he can get guys around him, I mean, we saw last year with, like you said, with all those transfers, all those commits, and they still ended up losing 3 games that they should have won. So I think with the maturity of Simmons and the combination of Kiffin, if they can get something going, they can get that, maturity and leadership combined. I think they could, make a run at this SEC, but the SEC is going to be just a gauntlet.
Yeah, as it often is. 15-1 for Ole Miss to win. A&M's tied there with them as well at 15-1. LSU 800, Alabama plus 390, Georgia plus 340, and Texas favored to win the SEC, of course, behind the big arm of Arch Manning and legs. Really excited to see what he can do down there. What does Texas's schedule look like?
Texas, let's see. I think they they
open
start
up
out
with Ohio State. Yeah.
Ohio State. Sorry, I start out Ohio
Correct.
State in the shoe, right? That's going to be tough. Arch wants to really, make that name, make that step. Obviously, the expectations are there.
Is that in the shoe? Let me look that up.
I believe it is in the shoe. Either way, I think you win that game. You make that, especially going to the show, right? You make that name for yourself, especially with, even though they're the national title, supposedly winners right now, the SEC winners, he still has some stuff to prove. So, I think if he can go out there week 1, that, that's going to be big for him.
Second ever trip to the shoe. They won 25-22 in 2005. Shout out Phil Steele.
The Bible.
Yeah, really excited to see what Arch is going to do. It's not going to be any surprise. This kid is super talented.
Mhm.
Just open it up, man. Allow him to make plays with his legs, because I think that's what would surprise a lot of people if they weren't really paying attention and haven't really seen him evolve over the years. But last year he was dominant out there. I can't wait to see him in that game against Ohio State on August 30th. I'm sure we got a line on that already. Where are you setting that line?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's probably gonna be tight. I would say within 1.5, maybe 2.5, Ohio State if it's in the shoe.
3 Ohio State.
3. Ooh, okay.
50 and a
Alright.
half is our total.
I mean, that Texas defense is gonna be really good too, so that's gonna be a oh, I can't wait. I just can't wait. Can't wait to see it
That's
on the screen.
that's Saturday, and if my time's right, it's Saturday at noon. You know,
Ah,
like a big
okay.
noon kickoff on that
Yeah.
one.
Alright, we'll take it. We'll take it.
Yeah.
I just 2 top teams. Are there they're 1 and 2, right? Gotta be 1 and 2. Facing off week
Yeah,
1, that's
it's a good
tough.
question. I don't
But,
know what the rankings are right now. Football is king here. Let's see here. Currently, right now, going into the season. Hopefully, I got this right here.
yeah,
I heard
at least
somebody.
2 of the top 3.
All right, CBS Sports got me. This is all last year's. I don't have preseason rankings right now.
Yeah, I
Do
don't know
you?
if they even came out yet, but either way, 2 of the top 5 teams going at it for week 1, and even on,
All right,
also
we got Ohio State, Notre Dame, Oregon, Texas, Penn State. That's our top
yep,
5 right here, according to AP. AP top 25. Ohio State
that makes sense.
1, Notre Dame 2, Oregon 3, Texas 4, Penn State 5, Georgia 6, Arizona State, which we talked about 7, Boise State in there at 8. Boise State going to be that good again? They open up on the road at South Florida.
Nah, I don't think they can. I think they're due for a little regression. I mean, you're gonna lose one of the most productive college football players in my lifetime. I mean, losing him, that's gonna be tough. So I think, replicating a season like that, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah, Genty's the guy that I want in fantasy for NFL. We're going to get to the
Oh,
NFL in
yeah.
a second.
Oh,
Boise, a 9.5 road favorite on Thursday, August 28th at South Florida. If that game's being played in South Florida, 9.5 point favorite. 63.5 is our total. It's a 5:30 kickoff on Thursday, August 28th. Football is
there we go.
king.
Can't wait for
Yeah,
that,
let's
man.
go.
Listen, just reading these lines out, man. Oh, get me going, man. Love this.
All right, Mcclay. As far as teams that are on that list with the transfers, I wanted to stay with that. You give me a quick little thought or two on these teams right here, and let me know your thoughts heading into week 1, and of course, week 0 if they're playing, and whether or not this team has anything that we should be looking forward to the future. LSU is at the top. Your thoughts on LSU this year?
I really like this LSU team. If it's not going to be Texas, I think it might be LSU with who they're returning. Obviously, Garrett Nussmeier. Obviously, the defense is going to be like that. They bring in 2 great receivers for Nussmeier to throw to. But what really scares me is just Brian Kelly. Just having him run the show really scares me, being that game manager. Just he seems to lose games that he shouldn't. And then obviously with a talented roster like this, I think this is probably his most talented roster at LSU. I think it's a shot. Currently, right now, I'm looking plus 125 to make the playoffs. I already took a stab at that for LSU. But, their schedule isn't easy. They have home games against Florida, South Carolina A&M. That's good. But they open up one against Clemson, have to travel to Ole Miss, Alabama, and Oklahoma. Talked about it the other day. Not saying week 1 is a must win, but you win that, the outlook for the rest of the season just looks that much better with your schedule and being in, the SEC gauntlet that they're in. So I think it's worth a stab. I think they're going to be in the conversation to make the playoffs. So taking a stab at them at plus money, I think it's worth it.
All right. What about Miami for your
Very low on
expectations this year?
Miami. Very low on Miami. Not a big fan of Carson Beck. Never really was a fan of Carson Beck. Not a fan of Crystal Ball either. I think they're kind of, going to be frauds in the ACC in a weak ACC. if there's a team in the ACC that I would go after other than Clemson, which I think Clemson's kind of the clear favorite in the ACC. I think I'm looking at like Louisville or Georgia Tech. I like teams like that. I like Isaac Brown from Louisville. I think he can be one of the most productive, explosive running backs in the country. I like Haynes King from Georgia Tech. He could be one of the best quarterbacks in the ACC this upcoming season. So I think teams more down the board in the ACC. If you want to take a stab at it, I would go Georgia Tech or Louisville.
What's the latest with Florida State? 30-1 to win the ACC. Again, we're talking about one of the premier programs. When they get it right, watch out.
Yeah, if they can. I mean, they obviously the season last year. They're not going to have it like that again. I think addition by subtraction pretty much with most of that offense and roster overall. So I think they'll definitely have a better year. I think we're looking at like 6-7 wins maybe. Definitely a big improvement from last year with the roster. So I think we're looking at a step up from Florida State. I don't think they'll really be in contention really in the end, but I think definitely a step in the right direction from what it was last year.
Norvell can't have another bad season, can he?
No, he can't. He'll be gone. He'll be
toast.
Is his
seat warm if he gets if he has a season like he did this year?
Oh yeah. Especially if it starts out pretty slow too. That seat will get warmer and warmer by the week.
All right, staying in college football again, looking at this list right here. Let's talk about Oregon and your expectations for the Ducks. A great program up there, and wouldn't shock me if they're competing for another national championship.
Yeah, not at all. They're, I think, one of 4, maybe 5 teams set at 10.5 with the wins. I think actually 3 teams in the Big Ten, Oregon, Penn State, and Ohio State, all set at 10.5, which is pretty crazy. But Dan Lanning continuing to work in the offseason. I think he's had a top 10 recruiting class in the past 3 seasons, which is, obviously good. They're going to bring in a lot of talent. And like you said already, they're going to be contending for a national title. They replaced Dylan Gabriel, Dante Moore, who's been in the system this past season, can learn that Lanning offense. They lost a couple guys to the draft, some portal guys, obviously Josh Connerly on the offensive line. But they bring in a couple guys that can really protect Dante Moore. They bring in another weapon in DeQuarian Moore, who's going to be a great 5-star recruit. Evan Stewart, another weapon on the outside, but he's injured. I think if he can get healthy, he's got potential to be one of the better receivers in the country. But schedule isn't the hardest either. They do have to go to Penn State, which is going to be their hardest test. Don't have to play Michigan or Ohio State. So I think even if you scratch in a loss at Penn State, I think they can still go over that 10.5 line.
Excellent. All right. Yeah, we're all over the place, and it's just based off of these conversation starters that I'm looking at right here from this transfer class, and you just start to apply it to what took place last year and what needs to happen for this upcoming season. But then you run into the team like North Carolina that goes out and gets Bill Belichick. And like, what in the hell is going on? And I'm looking, they had 41 commits in this transfer portal. That is a complete overhaul by Bill Belichick and his squad down there at UNC. I know they lost Hampton. I have no idea who their quarterback was last year. Is he back? What does Bill Belichick have to work with in year 1?
I think they brought in Max Johnson. I hope I'm not mistaken on that, but I think he is one of the – I feel like he's been in college football forever. But, yeah, you lose Hampton. You bring in you lose Mac Brown, who was, 74, 75. You bring in Bill Belichick, who's 72. So you really went really young there going, revamp that system. But I don't really I don't know which way I would lean with this UNC team. I'm not sure if they're going to buy into this Belichick stuff with what else is going on with his husband or with his wife. I'm not really sure, but I'm torn between whether I want to hammer or love this UNC team or just absolutely fade them all year.
Max Johnson is on that team. Didn't he get hurt last year when he was trying to throw the ball? I think he got hurt. Something bad
was that
happened.
with A&M, I think?
Yeah, right. And then that's right. You're right. Good call.
Right?
Gio Lopez and Bryce Baker are the other 2 quarterbacks on Carolina's depth chart.
I really have no way which way I would want to lean with that UNC team with all that's going on down there.
Interesting. All right. Well, definitely a storyline that we'll be paying attention to see what Bill can do in year one and whether or not he'll even be back for another year. Because I know that there's some odds floating around on that one that won't be the case. All right. So as far as your win totals, what's your favorite win total heading into college football?
As of now, I think me and Beef have been talking about it a lot in the Big 12. We're really high on this Utah team. Devin Dampier coming over from New Mexico, and with coming over with offensive coordinator, like we talked about earlier, bringing over your offensive coordinator and bringing over your quarterback. So I think teams are going to be a lot bringing that package in. I think 7.5 is very doable, especially with the schedule, with the tough defense that they have. They probably have one of the best offensive lines in the country. Probably have one of the top tackles coming off the board in the upcoming draft in Spencer Fano. So I think, they didn't really lose that much in the portal. And last year they had a quarterback that was 45 years old in Cam Rising. So I think this is a completely revamped Utah team. So for me, I think you lean the over, and not to mention they bring in two weapons from New Mexico with them, in a running back in Mcclay Rogers and wide receiver in Ryan Davis. So there's a lot of familiarity in this Utah team, even though some of the players weren't on this Utah team. So I really like the 7.5 with them.
All right. Is there a team that's sneaky for you out there that people aren't talking about? Whether it's maybe a team that the expectations aren't there and possibly could be a coach on a hot seat like Florida. Is there a team that's sneaky for you that is under the radar right now? Maybe could do some big things this year.
I did take Florida 6.5 when it was at 6.5. It's now at 7.5, and with that schedule, I'm really not too confident in the 7.5. 6.5 is going to be pretty tough too, but one of the better rosters that Napier has had at Florida. So I think with Lagway, they surrounded him with a lot of guys. I think Lagway also could be in Heisman contention. But the thing is, I could see him putting up Heisman numbers and them still going under their win total. You know what I mean? Like, I think he could produce, he can put up the numbers, score them touchdowns, points, whatever they need. But I still think with the head coach and, that Florida team, they always find ways to lose. So I think even if he does have a Heisman caliber season, under 6.5, under 7.5 isn't out of the cards there. But we touched on it in the ACC. I like Georgia Tech over 7.5 too. I think their schedule is pretty easy. Love their quarterback, love their defense too. I think they're explosive team. They're going to be fun to watch. So I think Georgia Tech over 7.5 in that ACC is something to look at.
Who are you going to have in your national championship game here on July 8th?
I really like Clemson. I think they're very experienced. I like their defense. Their defense is going to be one of the best in the country. So I think they're going to be in it. And I hate to say this because I really don't like them and I'm never too confident in them, but I think Penn State could do it. I think if they can get over the hump, I really do. I think Drew Aller, he's been there for so long. If this isn't the year, then there's not going to be a year. But if there's another guy, obviously with Drew Aller, right? I mean, with the talent that they have, they're not going to have another, talented team like this with transfers they brought in a lot of weapons. But also, like you touched on it earlier, I would not be surprised if Oregon does it again, goes back there with the schedule that they have too. So Oregon, Penn State, and Clemson, I think I'm looking at right there.
All right. Can't wait. College football right around the corner. Let's get it. Football is king. Hanging out with Nick Mcclay here on The Gambler. Ryan Beef Coiled down the beach. What do you got on my East Carolina Pirates?
Oh, ECU. Actually, Iowa State got a wide receiver transfer from there. So hopefully they breed some wide receivers.
East Carolina opens up with NC State. That's a killer game. That's on August 28th. That's on Thursday as well.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's gonna be a tough one.
Then they have BYU on week 4. So they go NC State, Campbell, Coastal Carolina. Coastal it's at Coastal, so that's probably going to be a loss.
Yeah.
Then they go BYU, Army, Tulane, Tulsa, Temple, at Temple. ECU coming up the way on November 1st.
Okay.
All right. Check that one out. Charlotte, you want to go see that game?
Might as well. Oklahoma's coming to Temple. How about that? That's crazy.
Coming?
Yeah. At the link.
Coming to the link.
Coming to the link.
What year we got? What week we have on that one?
3, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man!
Crazy.
All right, definitely get down there to that one. Check out
Boomer
Sumer in South Philly.
See John Mateer down there.
Let's do it.
I'll talk about another quarterback, offensive coordinator package deal there in Oklahoma. John Mateer and Washington State's coach came over.
Final one, college football. We didn't get a Dion conversation going. Why is that?
You're right. Honestly, I didn't even think about it, but the talks about the most talked about team the last 2 years was Colorado. No more team has probably had more national recognition than Colorado in the most recent season, but now you don't have Shador. You don't have Travis Hunter. Got a ton of question marks all around the board. All of your production last year was from pretty much those two guys, even Jimmy Horn, and Jimmy Horn's gone. So I think the development of, the entire team kind of took a back seat to the development of Shador and Hunter and them. So I think this team's due for a regression. They do have a good, class coming in, Julian Lewis. Don't know how that's going to work out at quarterback, but I think their total 6.5. If I were, gun to my head, I think I'd lean under on that.
They open up with Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I'm high on Georgia Tech, so I think Georgia Tech wins that one.
All right, Delaware. Wow, are they on the road? Wait, what? Oh no, that's home. That's home. I'm like, wait, Dion's going to Delaware? Wait a minute. Like, we're going to the Link twice, Oklahoma, and we're going to see ECU Temple, and we're going to Delaware to see them take on Dion in Colorado. No, that game is up there in Colorado, so that's in September 6th. Then they go on the road to Houston, Wyoming, BYU, TCU, Iowa State, Utah, Arizona State, West Virginia, Arizona State, then Kansas State. So, but you're not expecting much from them this year.
No, I'm not expecting much from Colorado. And even like with this Big 12, I think you could literally just pick the standings like randomly out of a hat at the beginning of the season, and it could end up being like that with how wide open this Big 12 is.
All right. Great stuff, Nick Mcclay. Great job across the board on all things college football. You're not done yet because we got to get on over to the NFL. I got some other stuff we got to discuss there. You can find Nick Mcclay on socials at Nick Mcclay 22. Nick Mcclay 22. All right, Nick, I want to know your thoughts on the NFL Top 100. I said today that Saquon Barkley should be the number one player in the NFL listed. If I'm doing a list, he's my number one player. Now, I don't think the proper question is that out of line? Because, look, if you want to give it to Mahomes, I'm not going to deny that. You want to say Josh Allen is better player or more valuable or whatever argument you want to make. What one person likes doesn't mean everybody's got to like it. That's fine. But for my money, Saquon Barkley is the best player in the NFL. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say you're crazy at all. I think he's got to be top 3 in my opinion. I think arguments with Lamar and Josh Allen up there too. But like you said, the season that he just put up should have broken the record, honestly. Should have broken the record. And, the value that he has to our team, to that Eagles team. There, without him, we wouldn't have gone. Even with the talent that we have, with the offensive line that we have, with the receivers we have, the defense we have, he kind of, led that show. So with him, you put him at 1, wouldn't blink an eye at that. But I think with Lamar and Josh Allen, with the production they've put up the last few seasons, obviously they get to the playoffs, they can't really do anything. So whatever happens. But with those two talent, I think you put them 3 up top. I wouldn't blink an eye at either 3.
All right, yeah, because that's what the big storyline is right now is running backs. ESPN came out with an article where they ranked all the running backs, had Saquon number 1. But for the top 100 that hasn't been revealed yet, last I looked, I think they were in the 80s. At the end of the day, he's going to be a top 5 player on that list. I know that they're going to put some sort of quarterback spin on it, but I think it's wide open right now, and you should give it to Barkley due to the season that he had last year, which was capped by winning a Super Bowl. And for my money, that should probably mean a little bit more than what Mahomes did all of last season. Mahomes is incredible. No ifs, buts about it. He's the best quarterback in the game. But Saquon Barkley, best player in the game. Who's the best defensive player in the game?
Ooh, that's a good one. I got a defensive, we're looking Pat Surtain pretty much locked up that cornerback spot. TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, probably Myles Garrett. The dominance that he put up. Obviously, you look at the contract he just signed, he's getting paid like the best. So, you ask me, I'd probably go Myles Garrett, gun to my head. 1-1 for defensive right there. TJ Watt there too. I mean, he's still got to get paid. He's probably going to get paid similar to Myles Garrett too. But like just pure dominance, game wrecking, like can flip a game on his head. I think I'd go Myles Garrett.
Do you have any futures in the NFL?
Yeah, I got some right here. Yeah, I did. I have the Saints to have the fewest wins at plus 500. I think they're 2 wins max. I don't like anything about that team. Tyler Shuckett doesn't, move the needle for me. Alvin Kamara's getting up there. The defenses and all that. Chris Olave can really not stay on the field. Love him as a talent. Tough to stay on the field. He gets hurt a lot. I did do this is more a biased pick for me is Emeka Egbuka, Offensive Rookie of the Year. I've been saying that he's going to be the most productive wide receiver of this group. So I had to, obviously take that really high on him. Got him at 35-1. I took that April 25th. April 25th, took that. Then I also have RJ Harvey, Offensive Rookie of the Year. I think I really like what Denver did in the draft with Pat Bryant, with RJ Harvey. I really, and Jahdae Barron on the defensive side. So really like that defensive draft class or
that offensive Rookie of the Year is going to be tough if Genty stays healthy.
I know that's what it's going to be Genty, but I mean if you want to take some flyers with some value, I mean Genty could win Offensive Player of the Year, let alone Offensive Rookie of the Year.
And then he's going to
have the Rams to win the NFC West too, which I think that's one of my favorite ones. From a divisional standpoint, I think Rams are head and shoulders above the Niners, the Cardinals, Seahawks. I think what they did in the offseason is just it's just better than what everyone else in their division did, in my opinion.
Wow. Right now you can get the MVP and Super Bowl winner at 60-1 for the Eagles and Jalen Hurts.
Ooh,
that's definitely got to take a stab there. Yeah, you got to play that. You have to play that. That's a nice number.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
And I mean, quarterback award right there. That MVP. Exactly. Just go out there, put some numbers up like you did last year.
Nick Mcclay, fantastic job. I had a pleasure. I mean, a ton of fun. Pleasure sitting down with you here, man. Talking all things football. Getting everybody warmed up, hot and bothered. Football season right around the corner for all of us. Eagles open up shop on the 7th of August, first preseason game. And then they open up the season versus the boys. And, man, it's all here, college football, everything. So I am going to take a nice little vacation starting on Thursday, be back on Monday, live, brand new Daily Ticket. And front and center, we'll be talking all things college football and football from that point on. It is time to go. So got my Phil Steele magazine, printed out all my over and unders for all things college football. That's what I plan on doing this weekend. Worry about the NFL. I've got a little bit better grasp of what's going on in the NFL. There's just so much movement in college football. It's ridiculous. Right. But at the end of the day, who's going to be there, top team. So look forward to covering all. Nick, you're the best. Once again, you can find him on all things socials, Nick Mcclay 22. If you miss anything, at FoxPHLGambler.com.